Hi, my name is Ryan Lane, and welcome to my review channel. So for today's movie, I will be reviewing The Little Mermaid 2023, directed by Rob Marshall and starring Halle Bailey, Melissa McCarthy, Javier Bardem, and Aquafina. Well, anyway, you guys know the drill. Ariel, played by Halle Bailey, she is curious about the surface world. She, has a collection of thingamabobs and whoozy whatsits, and her father just hates humans, because they killed her mother. Anyway, she's like, yeah, but they're not that bad. And so she ends up through a shipwreck meeting a handsome hunk of a dude named Eric and decides, okay, yeah, I want to go to the surface world. And so she makes a deal with the devil, or in this case, Sea Witch Ursula, in order to get up to the surface world. So let's start with the performances, shall we? The performances range wildly in quality, from decent, like Halle Bailey and Joan Hayer King as Ariel and Prince Eric, respectively. They're both pretty good. They both do well with the material. They have good chemistry with each other, which especially during the time where they're trying to meet and fall in love, which is impressive given that as many of you know, Ariel's without a voice for a good chunk of the movie, though not sort of. More on that later. And then there are pale imitations like Sebastian and Flounder. And I mean, give their voice actors credit. They're clearly doing their best, but they're hamstrung by just the fact that they're kind of dealing with recycled leftovers from the original. They're not given anything new to work with, and so they can't really bring a new edge to the character. Plus, they're hamstrung by the fact that they're playing photorealistic creations of creatures, and so that sort of hamstrings the emotional expression of the performers of the characters. So that right there doesn't help. And then some of the performances are just plain awful, like Aquafina as Scuttle is just, oh, yeah, it's bad. Like in the original, Scuttle is, a fun, helpful, but kind of dim-witted creature. And this one, Scuttle's just annoying. Like, really annoying. Especially during one particular sequence. Again, more on that later. And however, all of these characters, even the live action ones, none of them can compete with the originals, just due to the fact that, I don't know, the human face can only stretch in so many directions. Unless you're Jim Carrey, it's kind of impossible to compete with animated characters, because in the original the characters are so animated in personality, like their faces just have so many emotional expressions in any given line delivery. And this one, again, for live action, I mean, the good performers are all right, but it's just a pale imitation is all. Even yeah. Plus, a lot of the actors sort of just rush through the comedic lines. Again, in the original, there are so many laugh out loud moments, and yet a lot of the actors just rush through their lines, kind of cutting off any comedic potential. The one time that I had a solid, hearty chuckle during the movie was during a scene involving soap. Yeah, when that's your funniest line in a movie, you've got a problem. So the screenplay lacks the charm and energized slapstick of the original. So, like, how in the original, like, Sebastian is chased by a very dedicated chef, leading to a whole bunch of creative slapsticks at the music? Yeah, there's nothing of that kind in this movie, folks. In the film's place of charm and slapstick is just more melodrama about how humans hate the fish SeaWorld and the SeaWorld hates the human world. Like, Aquaman did this better, for crying out loud. Plus, the screenplay makes creative choices that range from decent to superfluous to just downright odd. The film transplanting the kingdom from a generic European setting to a more Caribbean setting is a nice touch. It leads to some creative visuals on land. But then there's superfluous touches like additions to Eric's backstory, which, while welcome for a remake, don't go anywhere interesting beyond the initial moments. And then there are just weird changes. Like, for example, in the remake, Ursula makes some addition to Ariel's deal that, without going too much into spoilers, goes against Ursula's basic characterization as a villain, and worse yet, doesn't lead to anything new or interesting in terms of plot development. The film's pacing is surprisingly fine. It's nothing terrible, but it's not too great either. But personally, I'm just happy that the film didn't feel too long, since, the film packs on an additional 40 minutes worth of runtime compared to the original. So the film's execution of the song set pieces range from pale imitations to just downright awful. Like for the Under the Sea song sequence, Rob Marshall is desperately working hard to make the sequence entertaining, but he just can't overcome the fact that watching CGI fish, move around and quote unquote dance just isn't as fun as watching animated fish dance. And then there's the rap song that Scuttle and Sebastian have, and it's awful. Like, when the credits came up and I saw that Lin-Manuel Miranda was credited with writing the new songs, I was like, wow, dang, talk about a letdown. Because I mean, this guy's done plenty of good musicals. He really dropped the ball with this one. The only song sequence the film manages to get kind of right is the part of your world sequence. And even then, this sequence owes like the bulk of its success to Halle Bailey, whose voice is very impressive and it's very good, though it's utilized in odd manners throughout the rest of the movie. Like, again, she loses her voice, spoilers, but then she has songs where she's singing in her head, which, I mean, again, on the one hand, credit where credit's due. The filmmakers tried to take creative liberties and take the film in new directions. That's good. That's good. But on the other hand, having her sing in her head and having the audience hear her voice kind of defeats the purpose of her voice being taken away. The whole point of her voice being taken away is to see her desperately try to communicate without words. And having her sing in her head and having the audience be privy to what she's singing kind of defeats that purpose. Overall, the film's songs, the old songs can't compete with the original's rendition, and the new songs aren't all that, fun to begin with. And then there's the special effects. The underwater scenes are decent. Again, they can't compare with the original, but, as far as a recreation of the ocean floor with humans pretending to be mermaids floating around, it's alright. But then sea creatures like Sebastian and Flounder are in an uncanny valley of their own. And the CGI can be just downright murky at times, like especially during the climax. It was like, wow, I can barely make out anything in this sequence. So yeah, while the remake isn't as awful as I feared it would be, it's not as good as I had hoped it would be either. So, with all that in mind, I will be giving The Little Mermaid 2023 2 out of 5 stars. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. If you like this review and would like to see more like it, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. And for today's comment section prompt of the day, what is your favorite Disney animated movie and why?